Community Conversations is a space that fosters conversation around topics important to us, with the purpose of creating an educational opportunity to teach, learn, work, and grow together. With your host, Ina.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Community Conversations, where we talk about topics that are important to us. My name is Ina, and today's topic is owning your story. We all have our own unique story because we're all different, and we all have a story to tell of who we are and how it has affected us and still affects us. And today we open up about it because we really believe talking about it makes us grow, and also letting that part of us that tries to hold us back make that grip loosen a bit. And when we do, we can be more of ourselves. And I feel that space is here. So let's begin, guys. Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, so first intro or question I had in mind was when did you take ownership of your story? And I think I thought I would start today. And my story is not SPH related. It's about the fact that I stutter and have been for or since I was 7. And it was not until 6 years ago, almost, that I went to a speech therapist and started open up about my stutter. And since I have been living with this for so long, I had all these ideas in my head, and I so remember the first session we had, and my speech therapist opened up with here in this space, the idea or the goal is not for you to find a way to stop stuttering. It's for you to find a way to be friends with your voice and your stutter, and to find find a easier and more loving relationship with your voice and with your study.
Mm.
That really was a huge moment, because I had then lived for over 20 years with this idea that the only way for me to function in society was to find a way to not stutter. And I also learned that I was not alone. I mean, there are so many people out there here in Sweden, out in the world that do stutter, and it all looks and sounds different, because we all are different. So yeah, that was kind of the opening for me to start the process of accepting the stutter as a part of me.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that, Ina.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
God.
Who else wants to take over?
I just wanted to say as well that since the very beginning of us diving deeper into all these community conversations and even through this work of A Song in City, even sitting down with you for the first time on the podcast, the first time at that point, the first time in a long time, and it was really cool to hear from you around those similar themes as well, in terms of like one of your goals in life, personally and professionally these days, to be trying to take up more space and owning those pieces of yourself, and it's super rad to see you do that in this space, and then in the work that we're doing, because it is, I look at that as like you modeling the way for other generations as well, like, you know, redefining what this idea of normal looks like, because again, we, in quotations, because what is normal, redefining what all that looks like, and normalizing the fact that, you know, your stutter is a part of you, and you know, owning that.
Yeah, and also a part that my speech therapist said quite early, was that stuttering is just another way of speaking, and it's like having different eye colors, or the fact that some are right-handed and some are left-handed. It's nothing. It is nothing, and it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But since it's not talked about that much, and since I, as a person that stutters, kept it quiet for so long, and I didn't talk about it with even my family or closest friends. I mean, if I don't talk about it and say and just mention that this is what I have, just so you know, and then we can go on talking about sports or music or other parts that are like in my soul, or in our soul, and that are interests to us as persons. So the fact that to change people's idea of what is normal, we need to talk about it and just say, this is what it is. Here I am, and of course, like everyone, I have better days and worse days, and but and I don't talk about it as much, but it's nice, because after my wheelchair, which is the first thing people see, my stutter is the second thing that shows, and the only way for me to hide it is for me to keep quiet, and I have done that enough in my life. Now I want to stop talking. But
no.
I'm handing over the mic, maybe to you, Danny.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Are you sure y'all haven't heard me talk enough?
No. Good.
No.
Well, I think it's interesting, because when I think of owning your story, for me, thinking about owning your story, I think about some of the first times that I started to learn more about spina bifida and hydrocephalus. I was 18 years old, starting university. I got this scholarship, and I went to the annual, not first, but the annual AGM meeting of Hydrocephalus Canada to receive this scholarship. And at 18, that was for the first time ever that I started to interact with different folks within our community, and I just started to become more curious about how different spina bifida and hydrocephalus look in people and people's lives within our community. And I became so much more curious, because before that, I hadn't really, I lived with this brain condition and had a tube in my head that keeps me alive. And that's what I said to people. And I had a learning disability, and I had a couple shunt revisions when I was 14, knock on wood, I won't have to have any more. But but it's always, something I also have in my brain, that it's always a possibility, that pun intended, I guess, but that it's always on my brain that I have to be cautious and I have to be careful and, monitor migraines or headaches if I have them a while. And, but I hadn't really been that curious too much about, pursuing meeting other people within our community. I didn't really know. I didn't know any other people within our community. I just didn't know. And here I found myself at this meeting for the first time ever, meeting other kids, young adults, and adults who live with spina bifida and or hydrocephalus. And it was a really incredible experience. And from there, I started to get more involved with the association and became an ambassador and started to try to, as a person that for as long as I've known myself, which is 34 years, I'm still continuing to get to know myself better and better and better all the time, I think. But for as long as I've known myself, I've been a very passionate person, and I've always been somebody that just wants to do something that is for more than just myself. And so I was making music, and I thought how cool it would be to be able to use my abilities to do something that is, again, not just about my abilities, but something that is important. So I started to try and learn and find different ways, and that became about also sharing my story through music. And I started to realize the power that there was in having, pun intended, having that microphone and being able to share, from a stage, whether it's a physical stage or like the stage of life in a, conversation with a person, how powerful it could be to share your story. And just the weight that could carry. And there's one story, one time that I did that will always stand out in my brain. It was in Newfoundland, Canada, Gander, Newfoundland, to be specific, about 3 hours north from the capital city. And I was in this gym. I was on this speaking tour in this gym of about 1,000 middle schoolers, grades 6 to 8, I'm going to say like 10 to 13, something like that. And did the speech, and this young girl walks up to me at the end and says, "I just want to say thank you so much, because I play soccer and I have hydrocephalus, and I kind of have a similar story to you, and I'm kind of coming to terms with the fact that I maybe need to step back a little bit from the competitiveness of which I'm playing the game, because it's starting to become a little bit of a danger to my head and my shun and to my health, and it's got me a little bummed out because I'm super passionate about the sport. But hearing your story and hearing all of the incredible things that you've done and where you're at right now, being here with us, it just fills me with this sense of hope and this sense of there being more than just soccer, than just this game that I care so much about. And that for me will always be that moment of like, this is why I do what I do. This is why what we're doing is important. This is why, for me, all of this, all of the songs I write, anything I do is not just it. It's not just about the song. It's always so much bigger than that. And of thousands of kids in that gym on that day, for that one person to get a little bit of a different perspective and a perspective shift that could help hopefully empower her, was just really, really powerful. And I'm grateful to Hydrocephalus Canada to be able to get a scholarship, to be in a space among friends who also live with spina bifida and or hydrocephalus to be immersed in that moment, because that moment has become a lifetime of wanting to figure out how to best use my abilities to serve our community in a way that is important, that hopefully changes the narrative, that hopefully moves the narrative forward, that empowers other young people to realize that they are not the diagnosis of their spina bifida or hydrocephalus. They're so much more than that. They have so much more than that. I think me owning my story was very much rooted in sharing my story, if that makes sense. Because I think through a lot of the relationships that I developed and continue to develop within our community, I started to reflect actually on a lot of weird things. When I was a kid, I had lots of hair. I don't anymore. But when I was a kid, I had lots of hair. And I remember one time the hairdresser cut my hair way too short. And I was so self-conscious about my scar showing. And when I started to connect more with our community, I started to realize, wow, there's a lot of like that scar, especially I think for young people, it can be a really sensitive conversation in terms of not wanting to have that scar show, not wanting to be questioned, not wanting to. So I know for me, I didn't want that scar to show because I saw it as a sign of weakness, especially when I had a couple revisions at 14 and I had to stop playing soccer, and you know my heart in that time felt like it was kind of ripped out of my chest, and that sense of belonging on a soccer field kind of went away and kind of disappeared, and I was that young angsty kid pissed off at the world because all I wanted to do was play a game, and now I couldn't even do that. And so that scar was like, it especially at that time became such a crappy thing. And I often actually still as an adult, and I'm not really self-conscious about it anymore. If anybody ever asks why there's a candy cane looking scar on the back of my head, I'll you know, of course, share my story.
You like Christmas.
That's well, actually, it's funny. In high school, you're right. In high school, there was once that they cut my hair too short, so I did turn it into a joke. I had it painted red and green and like the colors of Christmas, and so everybody thought that was kind of comical, but I like deep down inside, I was super pissed off. I was super pissed off that my hair was too short. But I figured, well, I've got one of two choices. I could, you know, be ticked off about it, or I could turn it into a joke and just have some fun with it. And so I just had some fun with it. But it's actually interesting because in university, my voice teacher in university, voice professor in university, said it looks like a bass clef. And for anybody that doesn't really know music, there's 4 different clefs in music. 2 of the most common clefs are the treble clef and the bass clef. And she said, it looks like you've got a bass clef on the brain. And I was like, whoa, I never thought about it like that. That's actually really cool. Anyway, so to go back to sharing your story, to go back to owning your story, I feel like for me, that idea of owning your story is so much rooted in sharing your story and continuing to own my story through the process of sharing. And yeah, I think so, if that makes sense.
Totally. I so feel it and can relate, and I'm sure all of us can relate.
It's actually, Ina, just you when you started talking, you made me think of it. There's a line I don't think it's in one of their songs, but there's a live performance where before they perform, Bono says something like, "We preach what we need to hear," and I feel like for me anyways sometimes, and I don't know if y'all can relate to this as well, but for me anyways, I think that talking and sharing and communicating, it's sometimes just stuff that like I need to remind myself of as well, or I need to hear, or I need to just like get out there. I just I don't know. There's this good energy or power in just preaching those things, because hopefully somebody takes something from it. But maybe I just need to continue to hear it as well. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Never know who you affect,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
who takes what you say to the heart, and and might be that girl you were talking about, saying, I have this too, and
Yeah.
thank you for showing the way, and yeah, showing showing others that they are not alone.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
That reminds me, speaking of scars, you Eva have a amazing story about your scar. Do you want to
Yeah,
say that?
sure. I have two scars. They're this big. It's like 2 centimeters maybe. So not that big at all. On my right side, it's from a shunt surgery. I don't have a shunt myself today, but I had. And I think it was in 2013 when me and Ina, a couple of other people, were in Kenya, visiting a hospital with spina bifida patients, and hydrocephalus as well. And in one of the wards, there was a girl that just had, I think she was about 13 years old. She just had a shunt surgery. And remember, my scars are this big. Her scar was from here to here. So it was her whole head.
That's hard, even but especially when you're 13.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I was in that room. There were loads of people, and I've noticed this girl while she was sitting in a corner looking at me and taking pictures with her mobile phone. And one of the translators that were in the room approached me and said that this girl wanted to talk to me. She couldn't speak English, so we used the translator. And she looked at my head, which at that time I had black hair that was shaved on both sides. So I had a very strange mohawk, you might say, so you could see the scars. And she just asked me, aren't you ashamed of your scars? Like, I haven't thought about that for a long time. no, they're just there.
Mhm.
And then she looked at me straight in the face. Our eyes met, and she goes through this translator, of course. Well, if you're not ashamed, then I won't be either.
Oh,
That's so rad.
yeah.
Powerful.
So
Wow.
rad.
That gave me chills. Wow. Yep.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
So rad.
I have heard this story told so many times. It's still
Mhm.
it's so
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think that was one of the first times I realized that very small things can make a huge impact.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole time we were in Kenya, we were there for like a couple of days, I think. The people around were not that very interested in why I'm in a wheelchair or that I use a wheelchair. They were interested in my hair
Huh.
because it was very strange and cool. And there were a lot of talks about my hair.
Do you have pictures?
Yes, I do.
Because I want to see now. When we were talking about it, I'm like, I need to see this.
Not now. I can show
No.
them to you later.
Someday I want to see it though.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Wow.
Oh.
That trip was something. And going back to owning your own story, at the time of that trip in 2013, I was not in a particularly pleasant place, emotionally and psychologically. I was going through things. Um, so that was a very intense trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So cool.
Mm.
Ah. You just truly never know when you're going to reach somebody. And I feel like, I don't know, I think anyways, and I don't know how y'all feel about this, but I feel like so much of the work that we all do in our own pockets of the world and that we're doing here, um, that's one of the pieces that keeps it all so purposeful, is we just never know when something is going to be heard just in that moment when it needs to be heard, in that exact moment where somebody needs it, and just needs that little thing that's like, okay, I'm not going to be scared anymore. They're doing it, so that's awesome. Like, I can do it. Well, I can do it. They did it.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing. I love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
Now I feel I kind of hijacked your answer to the question, Eva. So do you have any other story you want to share?
About owning my story. I have loads because it has been a process. It's still a process. I'm processing things at the moment. They were kind of unexpected, but here they are. um, it came in waves. First, well, this was harder than I thought. How exciting! First, the thing with being or choosing to be a wheelchair user, it was hard before, but then it got a little bit harder. So I found myself for a very long time being in this limbo, disabled, not disabled, facing a lot of prejudice, a lot of people trying to put me into boxes. If you're a wheelchair user, then why the hell are you standing up? And it made me feel that there was something wrong with me, even more so than before. And to actually comes to terms with that, no, there is absolutely nothing wrong with me. I'm not sick. I don't need to be fixed. If there's a problem, I'll go to a doctor. But I don't have to be in a doctor's office 24/7 because there's nothing wrong 24/7. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
The same thing when I started training, I was terrified of doing that because I knew that there would be questions and people look at me, which they did. It wasn't just in my head. Well, it was worse in my head than it was in reality, but there were still looks and there were still whispers and questions, of course. So that I had to come to terms with that. Still nothing wrong. Sometimes I do deadlifts. Sometimes I don't. I have the right to be where I want to be.
Yeah.
Such an important thing to say and to yeah, I can't find the words. yeah.
It is a very important thing to realize that there's nothing wrong.
No.
Just because some asshole 30 something years ago said that this is going to go to hell. They said it, sure, but clearly they were wrong. And unless a person has a crystal ball up their butt, then I will find out things myself. Thank you very much.
I actually, if I could just chime in on that as well. I think it's interesting because I'm a huge fan and believer that nobody knows somebody else better than that person knows themselves. Even if you're somebody's mom, dad, directly blood related, yeah, you might know a person, but I don't think we ever truly know a person ever as good as they know themselves. And you know, we have, if a person is advocating for themselves, we have to take them at face value and say, okay, cool. You know, unless told otherwise, sweet, you do you know you better than you. Who am I to say otherwise? I have no right to do that. You know you better than you, or you know you better than I know you, or better than anybody else knows you. So
so true. So
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you.
Alexis.
Yep.
Lexi.
You're up next.
Yeah. I think, like everybody else, it took me a long time to figure out. I mean, I am who I am. There's nothing wrong with me. But owning my story, I think, where I currently work, we teach soft skills to people in the community, and it's I'm in a group of very like powerful women, and they don't really care about what anybody else thinks. So that kind of just radiated onto me, and but the one thing that really did, Danny was part of this, was called front to back. So we know a photographer, and he took 2 pictures. One was colored, what the world sees. Then there was a black and white picture of the disability side, and it was of our back. And I've never seen my back ever. And I remember before they came out, we were interviewed. Danny, were you interviewed too? Like they asked you questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the woman said to me, before you saw the picture of your back, what did you think? I literally said to them, I thought I was gonna be grotesque. And I was like, that made me cry. I'm like, that is so messed up, because society puts on you what you're supposed to look like. And if you're not perfect, then you're not beautiful. Right? And then what made me even more sad was when I saw my picture, the disability at the backside. That sounded really weird, the disability side. In my head, I said, oh, that's not as bad as I thought, which made me even more sad, because I'm like, I don't even know, but I was just like, it made my heart break, because I'm like, that is me. Nobody should tell me what I'm supposed to look like. Nobody, like Eva said, I'm not broken, right? So after that, I was like, you know what? If people don't like me for me, or they don't want to get to know me because I'm in a chair, I don't need them, right? So being surrounded by positive women gave me that. Then the spine of it for the front to back gave me that. So after that, I got into wheelchair dancing. Love it. It's still fun. I'm very proud of this, but it's nerve-wracking at the same time. I'm a life coach, and the woman who got me into that said, I don't know if there's a person with a disability that's a life coach. So I'm like the first one.
Cool.
I'm proud of that, but in a way, I'm like, it's scary at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, I'm a trailblazer, kind of, but I'm like, okay. But then that puts doubts in your head again. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. It might not be the way other people do it, but I'm doing it. So
that's amazing.
Thank you.
Can I also add, Lexi, as well, just on the theme of like it might not be the way other people do it. I mean, where would we be in terms of things being invented in the world if people didn't do things differently? Like what about if like all those entrepreneurs who invented electricity and the internet and this, like did any of them do things the way they were supposed to? No. They all said, okay, I know the rules, I know what exists, but I also know where some of the issues, where some of the holes in society exist. I need to fill that void. I need to do things differently so that, that issue no longer exists. So keep doing it differently.
And I don't even think that that us four thinks about, now I'm doing this first time ever kind of humanity big thing. We we only do stuff that are important to us and makes
and
us happy and fulfills us. And and sure, we have these disabilities, but which makes us the first life coach in Canada. For me, personally, I have I think I was the first one in Sweden going to ski college.
Cool.
And in monoski, or as a monoskier, and I had as I think most teenagers have a period in their life where you just want to be like everyone else.
Mhm.
So there comes a point, a time where I went, I'm so sick of being first in this and this, and like it's
Oh yeah.
it's just so big because I do it. I'm like, but I'm just me. Let me just be me.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Yeah. Don't put me like in a box of what I should be doing. I remember one time I was going away with friends, like to Niagara, actually, and somebody said to me, "Well, aren't your parents going with you?" I was like, "No, I don't need to go everywhere with my parents."
Ugh.
You know, but it was just the stigma of you need somebody there with you. No.
Fine by myself, thank you.
Yeah.
Fine. If I want help or I need help, then I will ask
Yeah.
random people on the street.
I think we all did well owning our stores, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to claim that we kick ass.
Yes! Virtual
Yeah.
high fives! Virtual high fives!
Yeah.
I think that's totally a fantastic way. I don't feel there is anything to add. I had some more questions, but
Oh,
That's simple, though. Like, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I think we might be here all day and all night then. So I don't. Then I have this one question, which might not be relevant to all of you, but I know for me that was a huge thing, or is still, and that is when did you stop caring about what other people thought of you? I know you, Alexis, kind of touched on that, and that's huge. And I know Eva has another angle on that. You're like, I never cared.
Oh, I did. I did. I cared too much. Wanted to make everybody happy all the time, because somehow that was my responsibility. Well, I do care what people think, just not everyone. It depends on the relationship we have. I won't care as much about what Marcus on the other side of the street that I don't know thinks of me. But I will care if Ina thinks something of me and has something to say, if I'm acting like an asshole. Of course I'm going to care. But what other people say behind my back, people that don't know me, screw you. If you have something to say it to my face. Or I've been involved in different forums on the internet since 2011. And we all know that people have a lot to say on the internet all day, every day.
Yep.
It's like, in the beginning, I cared. Now it's just, it's your opinion. I don't know you. You don't know me. If you, well, was quite a horrific story. There was a couple of people a couple of years ago that were friends with me offline that wrote horrible things about me online under anonymous usernames. That was quite, that was heartbreaking. But when I confronted them, they weren't that cocky anymore. It wasn't fun for them.
Yeah.
At all.
That's usually the case.
Yeah, it is. So what's been said on the internet, don't care that much. It depends on who it is. Definitely. In real life, it also depends on who it is. Take it back to training. When I started training, I was very hypervigilant, and I was very much I was scared. First and foremost, I don't want to hurt myself, even though I had instructors and I had help. It's still scary to put pressure on your body. And I was on the outlook for danger in other people. And I remember, I don't know if I told this story before to you guys, but I was doing deadlifts in a machine. And here's the machine, here's a mirror. And so I'm lifting and I can see what's happening behind me. And there were two dudes standing and looking at me, looking up and down, standing like this. And I was ready to pick up something and hit them in the face.
Yeah.
But I didn't, because one of them came up to me and said that is really good technique.
There you go.
But I was ready to fight them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can I tell you, I'm jealous that you can do that deadlift.
Deadlift.
Yeah, I can't. I can't even fathom doing that. Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, I would be too.
Yeah, because it's one of those exercises that can put a lot of pressure on the spina bifida wound
Yep.
or scar, which I was terrified of. I had no. I went to the doctor before, and he told me that, well, if it goes wrong, you're risking paralysis.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow. Yeah.
But no, nope.
Wow.
that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is. Yeah. Wow.
But I was ready to fight a lot of people
Mhm.
Yeah.
because
No,
I
not
can't.
you.
Well, I cared, and
Yeah.
I was
Oh, yeah.
scared.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
that
I feel like so often that's the case as well. When you do care deeply, it's easy to get defensive. Like it's easy. It's just easy when you do care a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're so used to having to defend and
Yeah.
explain simple stuff to
Yeah.
a lot of people, and having questions left and right, and like
Yeah.
I so feel and relate to the feeling of
Yeah.
being ready to fight,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you met with such kindness and love and like genuine admiration.
Yeah.
yeah. These two are these two are the people that I actually go to for tips nowadays.
Mm.
But I could have punched him.
Yeah.
That's the people you should listen to.
Yeah.
And the that's the voices that should be
Yeah.
marinating in your brain.
Yes.
They are more and more.
Yeah, I've become used to getting better at doing that, like listening to the voices that I should be listening to, rather than listening to the ones I shouldn't be listening to, because then it makes me feel like crap, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like I know now who to listen to. It's becoming easier.
Yeah. I feel like I have as somebody that also still to this day cares way too much about what everybody thinks. I try and run myself through a personal little mental checklist of like, am I doing the best that I can do? Check mark. Yes. Okay. Cool. If I'm not, maybe it's on me. Am I thinking about this? Am I approaching this conversation emotionally? If I am, okay, I got to take a step back. I'm going to take a day. I'm going to think about this, wait till I'm in like a little bit more of a logical mindset. And if it then still logically makes sense, then I'm going to articulate it logically. And if that person still doesn't understand, then I'm really, really sorry. Maybe this isn't going to work out because sorry, there's just only so much that I can do, and I will work my butt off to try and make it work, to figure it out, to be on the same page with you, to be good. I don't want to pick fights or, be at odds with people. I just want to do good work for, a great reason. I don't want to fight. That we're wasting so much time and energy fighting about stuff. I don't want to do that. But I also can't, I also just can't continue to care about everything and everyone if it's not rooted in something that logically makes sense. If it doesn't logically make sense, and it's just an emotional thing, and I ask myself of that even as an artist, as a creator, when I'm, creating with somebody creatively, and I feel the sense of like, I don't want to do that. I find myself asking myself, why, Danny? Why is it that? Why is it your own ego that like just, wants to, is it that, or is it just the collaboration isn't as collaborative as it needs to be amongst both parties? Like what is that reason for you caring so much? What is that rooted in? What is it rooted in? And are you checking off your own boxes? If you're not checking off your own boxes, then something's got to give. And that something that's got to give might be just caring a little bit less about that thing that inevitably at the end of the day will be so minute and so small, and in the moment feels like the end of the world maybe, but it's not. And it will at the end of the day, especially if it's looked at through a logical, level-headed, non-emotional lens in terms of this is why it does, just simply why it does or doesn't make sense, why it is or isn't rational, and why I rationally do or don't care. Anyways, that's still a process for me in terms of caring, because I'm somebody that wants to believe and wants to always give everybody a shot and work with everybody, and I still will, just constantly figuring out the best way to do that, the best way to care, but also know the limit to what caring is in terms of different relationships and how different things look, because you could just spend a lot of time backpedaling and pedaling towards something that's not going anywhere. And then at the end of the day, you risk all kinds of things: burnout, exhaustion, envy. You start to like just be angry at people instead of like do something productive, and it just starts to make no sense whatsoever. So I'm still working on that not caring thing, and not caring, but finding that line between continuing to be, that caring human always, but also recognize your own value and know, okay, enough's enough. Maybe this just isn't going to work, because I will care, but if it's not like a mutual conversation, then that's no fair, because I'm over here caring a lot, and if that conversation's not mutual, then maybe we're just not meant to care about each other. I don't know.
Yeah, because you can only do so much.
That's it. That's it.
And the rest is up to the other person.
Yeah.
It's a constant give and take.
Yeah.
And I'm getting better at.
I was just going to add as well, because I've heard it from specifically two people: my buddy Jay, who co-created the first A Song of City tour, and my dad, a lot. You can only control what you can control, and everything else is out of your control. You can't. You can only control what you can control, and that is something that I also, is this out of my control? Check mark. Like that's just it. You can only control what you can control.
Alexis, any last?
I'm gonna kind of what Danny said. I'm learning how to not be emotional about stuff. Like in the past, I would just say what I felt and didn't care. Now, because I'm in a situation now that has upset me, but I'm taking a couple of days to myself, think it through. Then I want to articulate my feelings. I'm not ignoring my feelings, but I'm not going to them in a way that's going to be like accusatory, or I don't want to be defensive, but I want to own my stuff, but I also want to own the other person's things too, if that makes sense.
Oh, I feel we could keep talking
I know.
for hours.
Yep.
But
We might have to have a part 2.
Yeah, maybe.
What do you think about that? Whoever listens and watches this.
I mean, I think.
Tell us in the comments below. Do you want a continuation of this conversation? Or
Yeah, please tell us.
Yeah.
anyone else or anything else? Please don't be a stranger as you Daddy. You
Say hi. Be our friends. Be our real friends. Be our real friends.
Talk to us.
It might.
And if you haven't, please subscribe to this channel and share this and our other talks with your friends and family, and keep the conversation going, and maybe have maybe our talk here has encouraged you to share your story. If you want to share it here with us, then you're welcome, or just share with friends and family close to you, and yeah, don't be a stranger. And
Love it.
It's a great saying, Danny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, thank you all for being with us, and see you next month.
See you.
Wrap.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Peace and love.